Please turn in your Bibles today to the book of Luke, chapter 12, and place a marker in 1 Kings, chapter 17. Luke, chapter 12, and 1 Kings, chapter 17. Today, when I read, I'm going to be reading from the New International Version. And this morning, we're going to continue the series that we started last week entitled Spiritual Money Matters. Now, in this series, we're looking at our finances from a biblical perspective. And for those of you who weren't here last week, you missed a really fun time. And by that, I mean it wasn't fun at all. Last week, the preacher was kind of stepping on our toes as he talked to us about how we feel about money. The first message in this series was called Threading the Needle, and we read a passage from Matthew chapter 19 where Jesus said that it is difficult for a rich man to get into heaven. In fact, Jesus said that it's easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than it is for a rich man to get into heaven. Now, if you happen to be rich, that can be a bit scary to hear, can't it? But don't worry, last week we explained that Jesus' statement didn't have anything to do with money. His statement, he didn't care about the money. His statement was about how we feel about money. Jesus' concern was greed. It was putting money before God or putting money before other people. Now, if you happen to miss that message, I encourage you to check it out on the CenterPoint NWA YouTube channel so that you can be all caught up. But today, we're going to move on to another financial topic in a message entitled Trust Fall. Church, have you ever done a trust fall? Raise your hand. Some people here, you're like, I don't even know what that means, Pastor. Well, you know what? For those people's benefit, let's just show them. I need some volunteers. Could you raise your hand if you want to volunteer? Thank you so much, Matthew. John, if you would come on up. Seth, thank you. Justin, you're lucky you're holding that baby. Zan, can you give me a hand? And Tim, come on up. All right, now let's see here. Matthew, stand right there. Seth, you stand next to Matthew. And you guys, if you want to stand over on this side of the mattress here. And John, just make your way up these steps. Why don't you trade with Matthew? What? Folks, let me show you what a trust fall is. Matthew, I'm going to ask you to do me a favor. I'm going to ask you to turn around and face me and step down on that step. Very good. Now, when I say go, I didn't say go. When I say go, I want you to fall backwards. Goodness, he's a good listener. No, he's not. Go. All right, now that's a trust fall. Now we have this mattress here just to kind of help Matthew out, but that's not really what a trust fall is because no, you stay there. Look at me. In a real trust fall, what happens is there is no mattress. There are people who are supposed to catch you and you're supposed to trust them. So guys, if you could scoot as close as you can there up against our mattress and just put your hands out, hold the other person's hands. You're going to have to lean in. That's a big mattress. All right, there we go. Now listen, look at me. Don't look at them. All right. When I say go, you're going to fall. You're going to trust them, okay? All right, go. All right, good job. Good job. Bring them on up, guys. All right, let's do it again. Oh, no, we'll do it several times, fellas. Your arms got to get good and tired. On your mark, get set, go. Good job. You know what? Here's the problem, though. The mattress is kind of in the way because you can't get low enough. So guys, if you could, let's just put that over against the wall. Yeah, thank you very much. Now come on over. I think it's heavier on that side. Yeah. Physics, am I right? Okie dokie. Yep, I didn't build time in for this. We're going to be late to lunch today. All right, there we go. I think we're good. Give him a hand. All right, guys, now come up, step together, and take a step that way. Don't be on this first tile here. Go ahead and go a little more. There we go. Perfect. All right, now come together. Now, Matthew. That's a fun thing to hear when they're about to catch you, isn't it? They say, how are we going to do this? Okay. Now, on the count of 3, I want you to fall. 1, 2, 3. Nope. Now listen, Matthew. It's called a trust fall, not a look fall. Okay? You're going to look at me the whole time. Okay? And then you're going to fall backwards. Okay? And don't bend your knees. All right. On your mark, get set, go. Woo! Give him a hand. Now, that was good. But guys, you're too high. If you could get on your knees, please. See, I just didn't feel like you had to have a lot of trust there. All right, guys, if you could put your hands together. All right. Are you ready? All right. On your mark, get set, go. Woo, that was close. The problem is you put your arms out. It was really close, though. I couldn't do it. Here, I think I got something that will help you. All right. Okay, good. On your mark, get set. Go. Woo! Good job, Matthew. Thank you, guys. You can have a seat. Thank you, Matthew. Awesome job. Church, that is a trust fall. Does anybody else want to go? Lynn? All right. I don't know if Lynn doesn't trust the guys or doesn't trust me. I got to figure out where I'm at in my notes here. That's a trust fall. Now, I know what some of you are thinking, what in the world does that have to do with money? Well, I'm glad you asked, because that's what we're going to talk about today. Does anyone here have a $100 bill on you? Raise your hand. Anybody? Nobody has a $100 bill? Ivan, you got a $100 bill? Could you bring it up here, please? Does anybody have a $50 bill? Anybody got a 50? How about a 20? Anybody got? Seth, what do you have? Seth, bring me your dollar. Hunter, bring me your 20. Now stay here, Ivan. Your $2? Yeah, we'll go ahead. Take both. No, stay here, Seth. Hunter, bring me that 20. Does anybody have a $10 bill? James, come on up with your 10. Yes, Lord, I feel you. Does anybody got a $5 bill? Anybody got a 5? Stay here, James. $5 bill? Will, come on up, bring your 5. Does anybody got a $2 bill? Did anybody carry a $2 bill with you to church today? How about a 50-cent piece? Stay here, Will. How about a quarter? Anybody got a quarter? Dagan, who are you pointing at that has a quarter? Who's got a quarter? Anybody? Come on, somebody's got a quarter. A dime? A nickel? What do you got? Come on up, Trish. Bring it with you. That's a quarter, you said? All right, who's got a dime? Somebody got a dime? Dagan's got a dime. Come on up, Dagan. Stay here, Trish. A nickel? Did we get a nickel yet? Somebody bring me a nickel. Stay here, Dagan. All right, what about a penny? Who's got a penny? Joanna's got a penny? What? I don't care about your shoes. Come on. The Lord doesn't care. You know what? Kick off them shoes and bring your offering to the Lord. All right. Bring me the penny. You just bring me the... No, don't lose the penny. The penny's important to the lesson. Thank you. All right, now, let's see. I have a $100 bill here. Ivan, I want you to do me a favor. What does that say right there where my thumb's at?
In God we trust.
Say it again.
In God we trust.
In God we trust. All right, thank you. Hold on just a second. Who gave me the 20? Hunter? What's that say under United States of America?
In God we trust.
Yeah, okay, in God we trust. $10. $10. Who gave me a $10 bill? Nobody remembers. It must be mine. James, what's that say under United States of America?
In God we trust.
In God we trust. Who gave me the $5 bill? Will, come here. What's that say under United States of America?
In God we trust.
In God we trust. Okay. Seth, you gave me a couple of dollars? Cheapskate. What's that say above the word one?
In God we trust.
What about this one?
Same thing. In God we trust.
In God we trust. Who gave me the quarter? Trish? Boy, I hope you got good eyes. Because under these lights, let me see here. Where's it at? On the head side, I think. Yeah, what's it say right there at the top of that coin?
That says United States of America at the top.
Yeah, I was going to see if you would lie. Where's it at on here? Somebody with good eyes. Okay, what's it say right behind his head?
I don't know. I can't see it.
Dagan, can you read this for her? Dr. Perry, she needs to see you after church. Behind his head. In God we trust. Okay. You know what? I'm gonna save us a little bit of time. I think. I don't want to lie. Yeah, I'm not going to guess, Hunter. It's not the kind of man I am. That ain't going to help. I'm in light. Well, I don't see it on... That dime is so small. Dimes are ridiculous. Get out of there, dime. But right here on this penny, it does say, in God we trust. So listen. Thank you, guys. You can go sit down. I'll take care of that for you. Listen, what they all just showed us, other than the fact that they're very trusting people, is that in America, every denomination of our money, from the largest bill to the smallest coin, has the same inscription on it. And what is that inscription? In God we trust. Isn't that cool? Wouldn't it be even more cool if it were true? Think about it, church. How many people do you know who truly trust God with their finances? Listen, it sounds good for sure. Don't get me wrong, but the truth is we don't always live like it. Let me ask you a question. I want you to ponder on this. If I were to leave here today with you, and I were to go home with you, and I were to sleep in your house, and I were to go to work with you or school with you every single day and follow you everywhere you went, and I watched every single interaction that you had from a financial perspective. I watched all the things that you bought. I watched where your money went, how much you gave, what you saved, what you spent. Would I come to the conclusion that you trust God in your finances? Or what if I didn't only see your actions, but also you were willing to share with me every thought that you had about money? If I was able to watch every conversation that you had about money, if you shared with me the full details of every financial decision that you made for a month, would I believe that you trust in God? Or would it look more like you trust your paycheck, your bank account, your 401k, or the stock market? Would it look like that your faith is in God, or would it look like that your faith is in your employer or your spouse or maybe yourself? You know, I think that this is one of the greatest challenges of our time, and probably of any time. Figuring out how to live in such a way where we trust God fully with our finances. Because saying it is one thing, and printing it on our money, man, that's awesome. But living it, that's something entirely different, isn't it? You know, we read a passage last week from Luke chapter 12 in which a man interrupted Jesus. And he interrupted Jesus because he wanted Jesus to force his brother to split the inheritance with him. And after Jesus kind of asked him, like, who made me your judge? Why are you interrupting me and bringing this up? Jesus went on to respond by telling a parable about a man who had a very large harvest. One that was so large that his barns were not big enough to hold everything that God had blessed him with. So the man decided what he would do. He said, you know what? I'll tear down my barns and build bigger barns. And then in verse 19, it says that he would say to himself, you have plenty of grain laid up for many years. Take life easy. Eat, drink, and be merry. But Jesus said that same day that God would speak to the man and say, this very night your life will be demanded of you. And then who will get what you have prepared for yourself? Now, last week we talked about how this man responded or behaved in Jesus' story. And I got to be honest with you, I was kind of rough on him, wasn't I? Those of you who were here last week, I was kind of rough on the guy in this story. But I got to be honest with you today, I really have a little bit of sympathy for him. I mean, when you think about it, what did he do that was so wrong? He had a great year. He had an abundance. God had blessed him. He had worked hard, and his fields had produced more than he expected. He didn't cheat anybody. He didn't lie to anybody. He didn't steal from anybody. He wasn't dishonest in any of his dealings. He just had a good year. So when he had this good year and the barns wouldn't hold everything, he said to himself, you know what? I guess I'll just have to build bigger barns. If God's going to bless me in this way, I'm just going to have to figure out a way to store it all. Honestly, that doesn't seem like a criminal offense. It seems like a good business plan. It seems like a good way to manage your finances. But see, Jesus didn't call this man smart, did he? Jesus didn't call him successful. He didn't call him wise. In fact, he called him the opposite. Jesus called him a fool. Jesus chastised him. Now, we already discussed that part of that was because the man was greedy. In fact, Jesus told us to be on guard against greed. But when you look at this story, this man has another problem when it comes to money. Because even though he had built great wealth, he had no idea what it meant to trust God for his provision. He said, man, I've got all this stuff in these barns. Now I'm secure. Now I'm okay. Just take life easy. He was just like most people are today who trust more in themselves and in what they've accumulated than they do in God. And while this way of thinking is all too common, it's one that we should not fall into as believers. So today, what I want to do is I want to spend the next few minutes that we have together sharing with you 3 dangers to trusting in anything other than God for your provision. The first danger is the one that we see in the parable that Jesus shared. The first danger to not trusting God is it will make you confident in all the wrong things. Think about the man in Jesus' story. His trust wasn't in God, was it? His trust was in his grain, and his trust was in his barns. His trust was in his own ability to store up enough stuff to get him through life. So when he has a bumper crop, he does what any smart businessman who trusts in themselves would do. He tears down his barns and builds bigger ones. Says, I've got more stuff. Let's get more places to put it. He stores up what he feels like he needs, and then he says to himself, you have plenty of grain for many years. Take life easy. Eat, drink, and be merry. See, this man's confidence is rock solid, isn't it? He is sure that he's going to be okay. But his confidence is placed entirely in himself. Have you noticed how many times in this story the man says the words I or my? What shall I do? I have no place to store my crops. This is what I'll do. I will tear down my barns and build bigger ones. He's confident because of what he has built, what he saved, what he owns. Church, that's a dangerous, dangerous mindset. Proverbs 18:11 says, the wealth of the rich is their fortified city. And then it says, they imagine a wall too high to scale. That's a really good proverb. The wealth of the rich is their fortified city. They imagine a wall too high to scale. They imagine that their wealth will secure them, that it will take care of them, that the wall of their wealth is so tall that no one could scale it. But church, listen, that wall that they imagine is a lie. The thought that whatever money we have will always be there or that it will keep us safe and secure in life is a lie. The Bible's very, very clear on this topic. Another proverb, Proverbs 23 verses 4 and 5 says, do not wear yourself out to get rich. Do not trust in your own cleverness. It says, cast but a glance at riches and they're gone, for they will surely sprout wings and fly off to the sky like an eagle. In other words, your riches, they're fleeting. They're not solid. They're not secure. You may not get more than a chance to just glance at them before they're gone. Church, wouldn't it just be awesome to build up a bunch of wealth and then trust in that wealth and see it sprout wings and fly off? That wouldn't be fun. I know someone this happened to is a good friend of mine's father. Had all of his retirement was in the stock market. And he was at retirement age. And the market crashed and he lost almost everything. Had nothing to retire on. Sprouted wings and flew off. This happened to a lot of people. It is utterly shocking if you look at the numbers, how many people will win a huge windfall in the lottery and end up filing bankruptcy. Because wealth is fleeting. Wealth is not secure. And church, the problem with trusting in the wealth that you've accumulated is that that same wealth could be here today and gone tomorrow. Jesus himself warns against storing up treasure on earth, where he says that moths and vermin destroy it, and thieves break in and steal it. The first problem in trusting in anything other than God is that trust gives you confidence in things that are fleeting. That's why Paul told Timothy in 1 Timothy 6:17, command those who are rich in this present world not to be arrogant, nor to put their hope in wealth, which is so uncertain, but to put their hope in God, who richly provides us with everything for our enjoyment. Church, we're supposed to trust in God for our provision. We're supposed to trust in God for our security. Jesus told us in the Lord's Prayer to pray every day, give us, when? This day, our daily bread. Give us today, God, what we're going to need for today. You know, this is an example of exactly what happened in the Old Testament when the children of Israel were wandering through the wilderness. They were wandering through an area with no food. So what did God do? He provided manna from heaven. You're like, what is manna? It was like a Honey Crisp. God provided manna from heaven. But he told them, listen, every morning there's going to be manna on the ground, just like dew. Go out and gather what you need for that day. And the Bible says that the people with small families and large families, they would go out and they would get what they needed for that day, and they would come back and they would have enough. But like many people do, some people went out and they said, you know what, I'm not just going to get enough for today because I don't trust that it's going to be here tomorrow. So they would get enough for more than one day. And you know what happened? In 24 hours, it filled up with maggots and began to smell. You're like, well, that's just the nature of manna. Well, it's not. Because God did something else to prove that it wasn't just the nature of manna. God told the people on the day before the Sabbath get enough for 2 days because I don't want you to work on the Sabbath. I don't want you to have to go out and gather anything on the Sabbath, so you get enough for 2 days. And everybody went out and they got enough for 2 days, and guess what? It didn't spoil. We're supposed to trust in God for our provision. See, confidence in anything other than God is kind of like the confidence that Matthew had in that mattress. You guys didn't get to see his face when I told him to take the mattress away, but I did. And what you did see was, as soon as the mattress went away, did you notice that the fervor with which Matthew fell greatly diminished? Did you notice he started bending his knees when he got to a certain point? Did you notice he started moving his hands out to the side? Because he was trusting in the mattress instead of in the men who were there to catch him. The first problem with trusting in anything other than God is that when that thing changes, your trust is shaken. The second danger in trusting in anything other than God is that it makes you worried about all the potential dangers that exist. As soon as Jesus finished telling the story about the man who had the large windfall, he proceeds to tell us how we should live our lives when it comes to finances. In Luke chapter 12, verses 22 to 32, this is what he says, and I'd like us to read this together. Luke 12, 22 through 32 says, "Then Jesus said to his disciples, 'Therefore I tell you, do not worry about your life, what you will eat, or about your body, what you will wear. For the life is more than food, and the body more than clothes. Consider the ravens,' he says, 'they do not sow or reap. They have no storeroom or barn, yet God feeds them. And how much more valuable you are than birds. Who of you by worrying can add a single hour to your life? Since you cannot do this very little thing, why do you worry about the rest? Consider how the wild flowers grow,' he says in verse 27. 'They do not labor or spin, yet I tell you, not even Solomon in all of his splendor was dressed like one of these. If that is how God clothes the grass of the field, which is here today and tomorrow thrown into the fire, how much more will he clothe you, you of little faith?' Verse 29, 'And do not set your heart on what you will eat or drink. Do not worry about it. For the pagan world runs after all such things, and your Father knows that you need them. But seek his kingdom, and all these things will be given to you as well. Do not be afraid, little flock, for your Father has been pleased to give you the kingdom.'" Church, raise your hand if you've ever worried about money. You ever worried about how you're going to pay the bills? Or how you're going to get groceries? Have you ever worried about how you're going to get the kids the school supplies they need, or even get them Christmas presents? Have you ever worried about how you would provide for your family? Isn't that the most fun thing to do in the world? Sit around and worry about how you're going to make it. Jesus says here, don't worry. He says, don't worry about what you're going to eat. Don't worry about what you're going to wear. In other words, just don't worry about your provision. You know, there was a song in the late 90s released by a man named Boz Lerman. It was a song called "Everybody's Free to Wear Sunscreen." You ever heard that song? It was really popular when I was in high school. Or actually, I guess I was out of high school. When I was a young adult, it was really popular. I love the song. The song contained the words of an essay that was written for the Chicago Tribune. And this essay was a hypothetical graduation speech. It begins with the words, "Wear sunscreen. The long-term benefits of sunscreen have been proved by scientists, whereas the rest of my advice has no basis more reliable than my own meandering experience. Then it says, I will dispense this advice now. And it goes on to have a lot of 1 to 2 line pieces of advice. It says things like dance, even if you have nowhere to do it but in your own living room. It says read the directions even if you don't follow them. It says floss. But one of the coolest pieces of advice in this song, one of my favorite parts of it, it says, don't worry. And then it says, or worry. But know that worrying is as effective as trying to solve an algebra equation by chewing bubblegum. It goes on to say the real troubles in life are apt to be the things that never crossed your worried mind. Church, isn't that so true? How many hours have you spent worrying about something that never happened, only to later be blindsided by something you never even considered? That's what Jesus is saying here. Don't worry. Who by worrying can add even an hour to your life? He says, since you can't do that little thing, since your worrying can't even add 1 hour to your life, then why worry about your provision? Why worry about what you're going to eat, what you're going to drink, what you're going to wear? Because your worrying does no good. See, church, that's the real danger in trusting in your own wealth, your own power, your own hustle, or your own ability to provide for yourself. Because deep down, all of us know 2 things. Number 1, we know that we can't really provide for ourselves. That we don't have the ultimate say. That we're not the one who gets to choose whether we get fired or not. That we're not the one who gets to choose whether a tornado damages our home. We're not the ones who get to choose whether someone runs into us on the highway. We can't provide for ourselves. We can't control things. And the second thing that we all know is that there are lots of people and lots of things that can, in a moment, take everything we have. And that knowledge of those 2 things, it makes us worry. That knowledge is what makes going through life dependent on ourselves as stressful as doing a trust fall wearing a blindfold. See, the first danger in placing our trust in anything other than God is that it makes us confident in things that are fleeting. The second danger is it makes us worried about all the potential dangers that exist. And the third danger that is that it robs us of the experience of seeing God provide. See, church, when you trust in your own ability, you stop looking for God to show up. You stop praying because you've got it covered. You don't take risks for God because safety becomes your top priority. You stop giving generously because you're afraid that you won't have enough. There's a story in the book of 1 Kings chapter 17, if you want to turn there. In this story, the Lord sends the prophet Elijah to a widow in Zarephath. He tells Elijah, go see this widow. She's going to give you food. But when Elijah shows up, the widow comes out and he asks her to get him a little something to drink. So she turns around and she heads to get him something to drink. And while she's on her way, he calls out and says, oh, and bring me some bread. Oh, bring me something to eat too. She replies, listen, sir, I tell you the truth, I don't have any bread. She said, all I have is a little handful of flour and a little jug of oil. And right now, in fact, I'm out here gathering up sticks to go build a fire and bake a little loaf of bread so my son and I can eat it and then die. That's a dire situation. I love Elijah's response. I can't wait to meet him. I mean, I'm probably going to be way down the list when we get to heaven, but someday after a few thousand years, I'll get a chance. She says, listen, I don't have anything but just a little bit of flour, a little bit of oil. Right now I'm picking up sticks. I'm going to go build a fire, bake a loaf of bread. My son and I are going to eat it, and that's the last thing we're ever going to have. We're going to die. Elijah says in 1 Kings 17:13, don't be afraid. Go home and do as you have said. Go home and do what your plan is. Make your last loaf of bread, eat it, and then die. I love it. It's hilarious. Not for her, it is for me. Don't be afraid. Go home and do what you've said. But first, make a small loaf of bread for me from what you have and bring it to me. And then make some for yourself and your son. Isn't that crazy? I know a lot of mamas. And Elijah's lucky she didn't just kill him right then and there. But then he goes on to tell her this. He says, this is what the Lord says. The jar of flour will not be used up and the jug of oil will not run dry until the day the Lord sends rain on the land. You see, they were in the middle of a famine. In that moment, the widow had a decision to make. Would she trust in God or would she trust in herself? Would she trust in God's power or her own? Would she trust the word of the Lord or what she saw with her own eyes? Thankfully for the story, she trusted in God. It says that she went away and she did as Elijah had told her. And then it says, and there was food every day for Elijah and the woman and her family. It says, for the jar of flour was not used up and the jug of oil did not run dry, in keeping with the word of the Lord spoken by Elijah. You know, church, as I was reading this week, I realized that widow, she really faced the exact same decision that we all face every day. The only difference is that she had the benefit of knowing how dire her situation was, as opposed to having credit cards and bank accounts and home equity loans and bank overdraft protection that kind of shield us from the truth. Jesus told us in Luke 12:29-31, do not set your heart on what you will eat or drink. Do not worry about it. He says, for the pagan world runs after all these things, and your Father knows that you need them. He says, but seek his kingdom, and these things will be given to you as well. Church, the second thing that we really need to learn when it comes to spiritual money matters is that we need to do exactly what U.S. money says that we do. We need to trust in God. Not in our own power, not in our own ability, not in our job, not in our bank account, not in anything that we are able to accumulate or create. We need to trust in God. And when we begin to do that, it opens up a whole world for us. I'm going to ask everyone in the room to bow your head and close your eyes. I've told this story before, but when Christine and I were younger, I always wanted to do the right thing with my finances. I always wanted to be a good steward and to make wise decisions. I always wanted to tithe like I was supposed to. I always wanted to give generously. But we lived through some rough times when we were younger. We lived through a lot of times where I didn't know how we were going to make it. So I would tithe, showing God that I trusted him, being obedient to him. I would pay my tithe until times got rough. And then when times got rough, I may or may not. Because I had bills that had to be paid. I had a family that had to be fed. But in October of 2010, I made the decision that from here on out, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter whether I have much or have little. It doesn't matter whether the bills get paid or not. I will pay my tithes. I will be faithful and obedient to what God's instructed me to do. Now listen, this is not meant to be a manipulative sermon. I'm not even talking about tithe today. That's not really that's just a symptom of a deeper problem. It's a symptom of a deeper problem that I had in my life. That I didn't trust in God. I trusted in my own ability. I trusted in my own wealth. I trusted in what I could do. So in October of 2010, that changed. And I began to trust in God for everything. And man, it's been the greatest thing in the world because I have lived through some really rough times since then. But my outlook is different. When we didn't have any money and I had an old black truck. My kids called it the ghetto train. It was just a crappy black Dodge Dakota extended cab. It got to the point where the driver's side door wouldn't even open and close because the hinge was broken. So we would get somewhere like at church and we would, like a clown car, we would all just pile out of the passenger side door. But at one point something went wrong on that truck and it needed to be fixed. And Christina said, "What are we going to do?" And I said, "I don't know. But it doesn't matter because it's not my crappy truck. It's God's crappy truck. And if God wants to fix God's crappy truck, then he will." And church, that's how I view everything in my life now. It's not mine, it's God's. When I make a decision that we're going to go to Honduras as a church family, and it's going to cost us X amount of dollars, and I know that the Lord wants me to go, but I've already got a family vacation plan, and I've already got all sorts of different bills that are going to be coming in. I don't think about that. I think, you know what? The Lord's telling me to go. I'm going to go because it's his life, not mine. I'm just a steward of everything he gives me. I'm telling you, church, this is the greatest decision I ever made. Learning to trust God instead of myself. Because he's so much more capable than I am. And I've seen so many miracles over the years that he has worked to provide in my life. Today, with every head bowed and every eye closed, I just have one question for you. If you're here today and say, "Pastor, I need to trust in God. I need him to teach me how to do that. I need him to change my heart." Because if I'm really honest, I trust in myself more than I do him. If that's you, right where you're at, just lift your hand up in the air. There's hands all over the room. Too many to count. Who else? Lord, I'm so thankful for your word. I really am. I'm so thankful for your word that teaches us what we need to know in life. God, this is a tough one. This is a tough one. God, it always amazes me how we're willing to trust you with our eternity, but we're not willing to trust you with our tomorrow. Lord, I pray that you will help each person who lifted their hands today to learn to trust you with their tomorrow. To trust you with their finances. God, not to be prideful and trust in their own power. Not to be scared when they feel like they're not going to be able to provide. Lord, I pray that we will depend on you. Lord, change us. Change the way we think about money. It's not my grain. It's not my barns. It's yours. I'm just here to do with it what you tell me. And Lord, maybe sometimes that does mean that we'll take it easy. Maybe sometimes that does mean that you'll reward us for our faithfulness. But Lord, I pray that whether we have much or whether we have little, whether our barns are full or empty, that our faith in you as it pertains to our provision will not change. That we will always depend on you and we will always seek first your kingdom and let you handle the rest. Lord, change each person who lifted their hands' heart, change their minds, change the way they view finances, provision. I praise you and thank you in Jesus' name.